We are alive to the fact that we, as members of a wider global community, and that in both the regional and continental context, there is need to find a lasting solution to the matters in issue through an appropriate mediation process which should result in measurable outcomes. It is in this context that we have sought the regional body's urgent and immediate intervention in relation to the present and any other matters in seeming contention between Zimbabwe and ourselves.
Hello guys, welcome to Ruby Uncensored, and thank you so much guys for passing through. If it is your first time to come across this channel, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. Make sure that you ring the bell so that every time I'm live or I drop a video, you'll be notified immediately. And I also want to send out my love to my regular subscribers and say stick around, we're going to have the best time today. Please take a listen.
Having verified the veracity of the video through diplomatic channels, government is gravely concerned with its contents, which we consider an unwarranted attack on Zambia's sovereignty. Madam Speaker, the peoples of Zambia and Zimbabwe have always enjoyed warm relations from pre-colonial times, such that Zambia provided assistance, including military support, to the Zimbabwean liberation movement and allowed our brothers and sisters in the struggle to operate from Zambia. It is a known fact, Madam Speaker, that Zambia provided a safe haven for those feeling persecuted during that difficult time in our history, and that our founding father, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, played a key role in international diplomacy efforts that led to the eventual independence of Zimbabwe in 1980. On our part, as Zambia, therefore, we have never looked back or regretted having played that crucial unifying role. Nothing has changed since then. Madam Speaker, Zambia is a peace-loving nation whose desire is to pursue friendly relations with all nations, including the republics of Zimbabwe, the Russian Federation, and indeed the United States of America, among others. For example, not too long ago, in March this year, Zambia was one of the first countries that called upon the United States of America and the European Union to remove sanctions against Zimbabwe when the United States imposed new sanctions. It is against this backdrop that I wish to state in no uncertain terms that this demonstrates our commitment to the pursuit of neighborly and peaceful relations between the two nations. Regrettably, however, Madam Speaker, the sentiments expressed by His Excellency President Mnangagwa do not appear to accord with the warm relations highlighted above, hence our concern as government and hence our quest to have this matter decisively and conclusively addressed. In short, Madam Speaker, we wish to reiterate that as a sovereign state, we have no interest in moving away from our long-standing warm relations with either Zimbabwe, Russia, or indeed with our Western partners, nor do we have any desire to pitch one against the other. We are alive to the fact that we, as members of a wider global community, and that in both the regional and continental context, there is need to find a lasting solution to the matters in issue through an appropriate mediation process which should result in measurable outcomes. It is in this context that we have sought the regional body's urgent and immediate intervention in relation to the present and any other matters in seeming contention between Zimbabwe and ourselves.
So the fact remains that there's definitely something going on between Zambia and Zimbabwe. As far as the last election that happened in Zimbabwe, the flawed election, so quote unquote, is concerned. But it's very important for me to remind you on what President Mnangagwa really said to Putney, when he went to meet up with some of the, delegates there. Please take a listen.
You see, the West have just begun consolidating their power in Zambia, our next neighbor. There was a time when Zambia and Zimbabwe won. It was called Northern and Southern Rhodesia. It was won by the British, but they were now separate. And the Americans are consolidating their power in that country, both in terms of security and in terms of financial support to Zambia, to make sure that we feel lonely. But that will not change us, because we have taken a course which, as a people, that we feel we want to be independent, and we choose our friends ourselves. And besides, we are independent today because most of us in the leadership trained here during our war of liberation. We got our independence because we were supported by yourselves here, and we don't forget that history, and you've stood by us. So, Mr. President, I am happy to be here, and if opportunity avails later on, we may find time to chat.
So, okay, you listen to him. He said quite a number of things prior to he mentioned Zambia, and that he feels very lonely, which I completely understand, because don't forget that Lungu, his friend, is no longer the president of Zambia. He was booted out by Hichilema. We also look at Mozambique as well. Mozambique recently had anointed a 47-year-old man to be the current regime successor. Then we look at South Africa as well. Over the years, they've been saying, they hate white people, but now we can see that Ramaphosa is actually getting into a government of national unity with the DA. So looking at all these occurrences that are happening around us, I'm not surprised that the president would say he feels very lonely, And again, we also know the bedrock of illegitimacy that happened last year, that again is pumping as we speak right now. We have corruption going on in the country. I don't know why all these things are just being exposed at the same time, but some are saying it's because there's a rift within the parameters of ZANU-PF. So it's just a season of saying, I can't go down alone. You must go down. You know what I mean? And we understand where this is going. But very interesting now that you had what's going on within the parliament in Zambia. Rightfully so, because one thing that I saw immediately after elections was a huge rift between Zambia and Zimbabwe. I remember Rotendo Matinyarari on record. I saw also Chinamasa as well. There was Joy Charamba bastardizing Hichilema. They made his life very difficult. I do recall that there was actually a protest in Zambia, people saying stay away from our president. But again, Hichilema was just quiet. I told you that Hichilema is classy, so he doesn't really, again, these are diplomacy, so they don't say much. Even President Mnangagwa did not say much. Only now when he went to Russia, but he never commented on those issues. It was just, the ZANU-PF hardliners who were at the forefront, tried to cause a bit of a stir. But it's getting interesting, really, because now I'm like, the president is surrounded, because we're looking at what's going on from Zambia, and also looking at what's currently happening in the country. Also, people planning protesting against his illegitimacy. So I'm like, God, I don't know. President, you are definitely surrounded. That's for sure. You are surrounded. But the base that he's discussing about, some people are saying there's no base. You heard what the minister said, there's no base. But again, funny enough that there's another member of parliament that is actually discussing about offices that are in Zambia, which I want you guys to take a listen.
Those who do not know, AFRICOM is a United States Department of Defense combatant command responsible for military operations in Africa. My question to the Honorable Minister, therefore, is, Honorable Minister, don't you think it is the existence of that office which is making more African countries very uncomfortable with ourselves? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to start, it is not uncommon for nations to collaborate and cooperate on various matters, including matters relating to defense and security. It's not uncommon at all. Zambia would not be the first, would not be the last, and in particular with regard to that office, established only for purposes of training in preparation for UN missions. Nothing more and nothing less. So there is no need for conspiracy theories or indeed for colleagues to feel that this office is aimed at creating an environment which is unsuitable for our peaceful endeavors. Thank you, Madam.
I can tell you it's all about politicking, because there are people that are still, all allegiance to Lungu there. And I get the political, dilemma that is playing within the parliament. Honestly, I can see it. But because, is there any war in Africa? Do we feel any, threat around here? Or it's just that these people are actually just want to cause havoc, because they know they support Lungu and there's always tensions, when Lungu lies that, he is, they've taken away his presidential benefits, but they say, but the law does not allow you to still keep them, considering that you want to come back into politics. So I can see really politicking going on here. And we all know that we have the very same thing in Zimbabwe as well. So many accusations, the opposition party is always being accused of working in court with America. And yet, we're surprised the people that are looting our resources are foreigners that are working courts as NPF, be it Americans. Remember, I remember, Mnangagwa on record confirming that they are working some billionaires there that have interest in our country. We saw Chinese, we saw Russians, but our people are still suffering in the midst of all these dilemmas. So for me, I'm like, it's all about politicking. Honestly, I don't take this war drama serious. I'm focusing on the most important thing is this SADC summit that is coming up. I've seen people posting on social media that no, we need to prepare heavy protests so that we can stand against this tyranny. We can also let SADC know that we are fed up. We are completely fed up, and I'm praying for this protest that we don't want to see blood on the floor. You guys have seen what's going on in Kenya right now. It's intense. The protests are heavy. I don't know what Ruto is doing there, because I really had faith in him. But unfortunately, he seems to be more aligned with these fake prophets. And I'm like, guys, I love God, but sometimes, God, there's time for work. It's not everything that requires prayer. You know what I mean? Prayer is great for divine empowerment, divine direction. But at the end of the day, we need to come back and do what's supposed to be doing. Lead people well. Don't just move around the world. Do the work and make sure that the country function. So I'm just saying, guys, it's time for us Zimbabweans to come together and make sure that we build a Zimbabwe that we know is suitable for us. Not for other people, but for us. It is really, really important. Let's go ahead again and listen to what are they saying further.
Madam Speaker, that AFRICOM is responsible for fighting region wars or conflicts, whatever it may be called. Is a minister in order to mislead us and mislead the nation that this particular establishment in Lusaka, which I doubt is even a creation of cabinet, because if it was, it could have been brought here for ratification. Madam Speaker, is he in order to mislead us that this particular establishment in Lusaka is for UN for training for UN operations, when in fact this particular concern he has mentioned is not even highlighted on the objectives of Africa? I think you're serious, really, Madam Speaker.
Zambia belongs to the bloc called SADC, and what happens in Zambia is a concern of other members of SADC. I just want to find out how much consultation was done, if any, with SADC members before authorizing the opening of this AFRICOM in Zambia. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Indeed, as Zambia is a member of a regional body, it still is a sovereign state. It is not every matter that is one that is dealt with on a regional perspective. There are clear engagement models on what ought to be dealt with on a regional perspective and what ought to be dealt with on a bilateral or sovereign basis. So this issue that is being referred to was one dealt with on a bilateral basis.
All right, so you heard. But here's the interesting part, is because it's the Lungu people that are just trying to push an agenda. And again, I told you, as all politicking, and I get that and I understand it very well. That's why I don't even take it very much serious. However, if there was really something that is a threat, if there can be something that is a threat, I think honestly from Harare there is the illegitimacy, is the fraud election, is the corruption that we are seeing every day. Those are the real threats. Not to worry about a best that is in Zambia when you forget about what's going on within our camps. What about the Russians? What about the Chinese people? So now I'm looking at Zambia's coming up and I'm like, this upcoming SADC is going to be interesting because not only are people forcing on the issue of the Florida election, there's also another push from Zambia of saying, do not interfere in our sovereignty. Why are you making it difficult? Why do you talk about us with other countries and we discuss about ourselves? So it's going to be an interesting days ahead, and I want you guys to come through together. Let's have a chat. What do you guys think in the comment section below? Why is it Zimbabwe is finding it very difficult to actually accept that there is a best? Why is it becoming an issue? What about what's going on in our country? And what do you think that will be the outcome of such a discussion? I can't wait to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. So
thank you guys for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and make sure that you ring the bell. And may God bless you and may God bless Zimbabwe. I love you all and bye for now.